Let's talk about a couple things Gen X. So I was born in 1972. I am firmly implanted in Gen X. And I had 4 or 5 TV channels growing up. I remember what it was like to have a landline. I remember dial-up internet. I was a little too old for MySpace and AOL Instant Messenger by the time I was, exposed to those. I have drank out of a hose before. And, I had vinyl records. We didn't use seat belts. It goes on and on. We had to get our film developed and drop it off at these places, and sometimes it took weeks to get it back. Sometimes you could have it back in an hour. It depends on where you went. So life is very different than it used to be. And the internet is a place where everyone likes to talk about the differences. I would like to talk about one of the things that almost everyone brings up is the obsession that today's generation has with water bottles and carrying water everywhere and always having water. And it's interesting because now there have been some news stories coming out lately within the last few days, at least that I've seen. I don't know how long they've been out, but within the last few days, and I guess there's probably some earlier ones, but about different people messing with U.S. water supply. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's interesting because this generation is so locked into always having their bottle of water everywhere. And a lot of times you will see these kind of joke videos or satire videos, whatever, where people will talk about the difference between this generation. They'll be interviewed by a younger person. Like, did you really drink out of the hose? Did you really do this? Did you really ride your bike without a helmet? Did you whatever? And you'll see a lot of the Gen Xers saying, we didn't drink water. We didn't think about water. We didn't think about being hydrated. We didn't think about how much hydration we were having. We didn't think about drinking water. Okay. I'm going to go out on a weird tangent because I grew up in 1972. I grew up in the country, and we gardened, and we had, we didn't completely live on the land, but we gardened. And at one point my parents had chickens, but not when I was older, but when I was much younger, we had chickens. We used to buy from a butcher shop. Every once in a while we would buy like a part of a cow from like a farm, and it would be in the freezer in the basement and things like that. So kind of old school, kind of old fashioned. We did have soda. We had Kool-Aid. My mom would make lemonade, and she would make iced tea. It was sweet tea. And, my parents drank coffee growing up. But water was actually really a big part of my life. And I drank a lot of water. My grandmother had these little Dixie cups in a dispenser near the sink. And she had an ice cold glass gallon of spring water in the fridge. And we did not drink the well water. I think it was safe to drink. We just did not drink the well water because we drank water that came from the spring. And so there was this spring. There were a couple of them, but there was one below the house, one above the house, one like way over the next town over. And my grandmother would take these boxes full of these glass jars, and we would go and we'd carry them down to the little spout, and we would fill up the water, and then we would take them back home and carry them all in the house again. I've actually done this. I did this actually, I think I took footage of it the last time I went. There's a spring about 40 minutes from here, and I have gone there many, many times and filled up. It is the best tasting water I've ever had. And I actually I have one of those little things you get from TikTok Shop where you test the water, and this was actually the purest water I've tested anywhere. And I've tested like Evian and Agua Panna and like all of them, and this spring has like the best. It runs through a crystal mine. It's supposed to be like super filtered. It's run by the water district in the town. that it's in, and so it's maintained, it's tested, and it's delicious water. But I did grow up drinking water. I grew up drinking water with meals, and we had milk, but I mean, I grew up drinking water with some meals. I grew up having a glass of water with a snack. And especially if we were out playing and it was summertime and it was hot, we would come back in and get a glass of water. And we used to cut our own firewood. My parents had quite a bit of land, and we would cut our own firewood every summer, and we would stack it and let it dry for winter. And that's how we primarily heated the house, although we did have an oil furnace as well. But we would have a little thermos of ice water that my mom would prepare for us. And when we would go and cut wood, and my dad would cut the wood and we would load it onto the truck, we would have little cups of water for when it got hot. And so we would sit there and it had like this little press button thing. I remember like standing there forever filling my little cup up. And so water was actually a big part of my life. I did drink a lot of water. I may actually drink less water now in 2026 than I did in like 1982, which is weird, I know, and I got to get better about it. But water was one of those things that whenever I hear somebody say, now we didn't have bottled water. We didn't carry around the little plastic bottles of water. We didn't carry around the stainless steel bottles. We didn't have that. In fact, I remember a health food store probably in the 80s, and we started to get like those plastic bottles of Evian. Maybe they were glass then. I can't remember. Anyway, and they were really expensive. And I remember everybody being like, why would you buy water? It's free. But anyway, so that's my water memory. I don't know if you have a water memory, but I keep seeing a lot of these Gen X videos where they talk about like, we didn't drink water. I did. I drank a lot of water. So if you drank a lot of water when you were younger, maybe you drink a lot of water now, you don't drink as much water, you want to talk about water, comment below, because it was on my mind this morning and I just had to make a video. So I'm sorry. It's all about water. I love you guys. Have a fabulous weekend.